Alright, we're here. We're talking about WWE 205 Live, which will premiere in just 27 days of this recording. So if you're watching this in the future, you might be able to just yell in the comments and be like, you're wrong. But we got a theory. And it's just not any theory, it's a wrestling theory. And there's a lot of wrestling theories out there.
A wrestling theory.
There's a lot of wrestling theories out there. But this one, of course, is talking about how the Cruiserweights can have their own show, pretty much. Which is going to be exclusive to the network, which is a thumbs up. Alright? I mean, it gets rid of having... Here's where I'm going to talk about my theory on this, alright? They're going to pull the plug on the Cruiserweights on Raw.
They will.
This is where the Cruiserweights...
I don't think they will.
But it's like, why would they waste time putting them on Raw if they can just put this entire show
Because
This means that you can literally, instead, you can make of the few very important rather than, okay, you know what, we're gonna just because we need different faces out there, we're gonna have guys who are not over at all go out there.
I just think it's very awkward to see. I mean, when you look at some of the they have the names for them. It says, and I quote from the WWE.com article, coming off of the success of the WWE Network's recent Cruiserweight Classic Tournament, just the tournament, the new division hasn't really been too successful aside from, you know, Kendrick and Perkins, and some could argue.
Is this what the article says?
No, that's what I'm saying.
Well,
but,
no,
I was gonna say.
They're taking shots.
Are they really going to town on their own division?
No, I just gave my own little input on this. But to continue back to the article, it will show which airs exclusively on Monday Night Raw, talking about the new Cruiserweight division. 205 Live will feature the superstars that are 205 pounds and under, including Cruiserweight champion Brian Kendrick, TJP, Rich Swann, Noam Dar, Holland, Cedric Alexander, Lince Dorado, Grand Metalik, Tozawa, I guess he's not your Akira Tozawa, Jack Gallagher, Gearv, and Harv Sear, the Sear brothers. 205 Live is a natural progression to showcase the depth of a roster, says Paul Triple H Levesque.
See, I told you right there.
That's destroying kayfabe. It should only say Triple.
But here's my main
right there.
problem
It
with
just
this.
proved my point.
What do you mean?
It just said it's just really to show the depth of the Cruiserweight division. The Cruiserweight division is gigantic. You can't afford to throw two matches on there, because they need to start focusing more on their other stuff and not having two Cruiserweight matches a week, because the crowd doesn't care as much about having two a week. You can give them one a week and they'd be fine.
I think the big problem right here is that they're doing a very gimmicky thing, and they're separating them from the roster by having purple everything. I mean, even though they changed the belt color from purple to blue because of Brian Kendrick, and I just think
I made a rant about this a couple days ago, actually.
Well,
but I feel like comparing the Cruiserweights of today with the Cruiserweights of 2005, 2006, they failed. They failed to bring back that heat, and now they're realizing it. So I would agree with you that I feel like they're going to slowly take them off TV.
Yeah.
And give them their own show.
Here's the other thing.
It's impossible
to
try to... I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tech.
It's okay.
It's impossible to, even compare yourself to the Cruiserweights of that Paul Heyman at SmackDown. Mainly because we don't have as many great Cruiserweights that we had back then. There's no Eddie
Cruiserweights. Yeah,
we don't have no legends
WCW
right now. There was guys that would go on to be legends at that point.
Dude, Brian Kendrick is our legend. He's a man with a plan.
They could have brought Paul London back. He's just doing indie right now.
They couldn't, though, because he's tied down with...
he got high.
No, he's tied down...
With Lucha.
He's with Lucha, yeah, so he's tied down because, they don't want that awkward Rick Rude thing where it's like, hey, you're on this show, but you're also on this show because that's live. They don't, My main thing is, to just shoot back with Mullins real quick, is about the depth of the Cruiserweight division. I really thought they were going to have a SmackDown's Cruiserweight division because of how much depth was in it, and it would help take away all the heat on Brian Kendrick's title reign as a heel now, and maybe this is where SmackDown, which is more notably, where faces can shine, in my opinion. Even though everyone's very angry on SmackDown sometimes, but
yeah, like that's what yesterday guy had that vibe yesterday.
But I think if they do keep the Cruiserweights on Raw, it'll be weird because it's like they might still separate them and do the weird purple ropes thing. They need to make them feel a part of the show, But I think if they just separate them and put them, it's kind of like with NXT. You put them on one thing on the network and you just soak it all in. Because that's pretty much the gist of NXT when it comes to like Samoa Joe, Aries, God bless your eye, Bobby Roode, Samoa Joe, Shinsuke, like those guys. Our favorite person in the world, Ember Moon. Like, you take that entity and you keep it there, but then you can incorporate it into the main roster later. And I think in terms of the Cruiserweights, they need to be their own entity for a while so they can get that heat. I think the Cruiserweight Tournament didn't do much justice in a sense that we didn't know who was going to stay long term, and then as we got confirmations of people, even Triple H coming out there and giving the contract out, that helped those guys in particular, so they could easily be a part of that Raw roster. But they need to get familiarized by working with bigger names, and I think this is where the Sami Zayn, the Neville, the Sin Cara, which they've already done with, those guys really need to help out these Cruiserweights, because if you look at it, you have a lot of good heel Cruiserweights, but they're just putting all the showcase, in my opinion, on Brian Kendrick. And when it comes to the baby faces, all of them are shining. In terms of Rich Swann, Cedric Alexander, TJP, Vince Strado a little bit.
Well, I feel like something... Oh, actually, you finished, then I could.
No, I'm completely on the statement, so...
Okay, well, basically what I was thinking is, like, the big problem is a lot of their heel guys aren't well known. Like, you look at, Tony Nese, you look at Drew Gulak. They were known... Drew Gulak, if you think of him, you think of Ant. I forget which hand it was.
Is he the...
Silver.
Silver? Is
you
he
think
Silver?
of the Colony, though. You think
no. When I see Drew Gulak, I automatically think Chuck Taylor, and then I'm like, why didn't Chuck Taylor get signed? And
yeah, he was basically like the lesser of the two. If you had a choice between Drew Gulak or Chuck Taylor, majority of people I would say Chuck Taylor.
Well, Chuck Taylor did a quick thing in TNA, though.
He was kind of mainly like a straight guy that didn't really have much personality, so he would attach to someone else to get a personality. He's kind of like what Cody Rhodes was with Ted DiBiase. Where Ted DiBiase had no personality, but Cody Rhodes had charisma, so they try to carry each other.
This 205 thing, I'm telling you, it is strictly for the depth in the thing. It's like what everyone was saying. It's basically like giving the guys that aren't good enough for Raw in the Cruiserweight division, because there's a good chunk of guys that aren't good enough for Raw in this Cruiserweight division. It's giving them that chance to shine without having to take time away from NXT.
Here's my thing, though.
It's basically like NXT for Raw's Cruiserweight.
Here's my thing is, why don't they add another hour to NXT?
Because that
would be too logical. Tech.
It would be
too logical.
It would be too much like SmackDown.
Well, think about.
And then it would demote SmackDown, frankly.
No.
It would take away from SmackDown because it would be the same length, and it would probably be just as good. And SmackDown's really good, but NXT with 2 hours could be insanely good.
Exactly.
No. The thing is, you will ruin the magic if you extend NXT to 2 hours. What's so great about NXT is that it's 1 hour, and it's not an hour that's wasted. You never feel like an NXT show is dragging on. You put 2 hours, that means they're going to get more writing. And, I mean, look at the writing in WWE so far with Raw and SmackDown. I wouldn't say they're anything good right now.
Yeah, but it helps that NXT's in one location, and they know what they have to pander to.
Yeah, but let's look at other people that are 2 hours long that stay mainly in one location.
They're
Let's
doing
look
pretty
at
good
old
too,
TNA.
though.
Hey, we
They're
can't
doing
talk
pretty
about
good.
them right now.
They're
We
doing
can't
pretty
talk
good
about
in that
them.
one
That's
location.
No, they're not. You're dying.
Do you not watch the show? That's behind the scenes.
It's like watching a car. It's like watching a corpse wave at you. It's
Lenny, you can't talk about them for at least another 2.5 hours. It's not Thursday yet.
And you can't talk about them until January when we see all the X Division join the depth of 205 Live. Anyways, besides that, our last thing we will
we
talk
can't see it
about.
till Smashing Pumpkin Wrestling happens.
Our last thing that we'll talk about for this little discussion is just another opinion, basically. Do you think they'll add a Cruiserweight title? And because I mean, hey, I think it could work. Honestly, if you give them that hour, then you could have, 20 minutes of the show focus around, that little Cruiserweight tag title scene, and then the other 40 minutes being like those guys scratching and clawing to get to Brian Kendrick.
I think it
or
could
whoever's
work
champ.
because there's already multiple tag teams that are kind of like filtering into this whole Cruiserweight
Yeah,
division.
Rich
You got
Swann,
your
Cedric Alexander,
Swann,
Shearer
you got
Brothers,
you got the Bollywood Boys, you got
Metalik
Gulak
and Dorado.
Denise.
And in my honest opinion, Dorado's the guy that's probably going to replace Sin Cara long term. I also see.
Yeah, that's what we discussed before.
Who's the other guy that's been teaming up with Drew Gulak and Tony Nese? There's one more. I can't remember, and it's bothering me.
Arya Daivari.
Arya Daivari. Well, okay. Well, I could see Tony Nese and Drew Gulak teaming up. Arya Daivari, we need a little guy called Sean Daivari, in my opinion, to really
Sean Daivari would be a nice addition and a veteran.
Yeah, exactly. Because our big veteran is Brian Kendrick, and I wouldn't agree with him holding the title.
There's only one of Brian
but...
Kendrick, and there's a bunch of guys that aren't really used to this level.
Exactly. So, anybody have any closing thoughts on 205 Live?
Like I said before, I do not believe that it's going to kill off the Cruiserweight division. I believe it's merely for those guys to get the time to shine and work their way. It's basically like going to be like how NXT is for Raw and SmackDown. You're going to have 205 is going to be that for the Cruiserweight division on Raw.
Yeah, and just because it's got in my mind a little bit, do you foresee WWE taking more out of the Cruiserweight 205 Live and putting them on Raw, whereas NXT will become more for SmackDown, because SmackDown kind of needs that more, in my opinion, for those bigger names. I mean, SmackDown's doing great with building big names right now to fight these beasts on Raw, but at the same time, I think long term, if someone gets injured, then we have to look at that situation. Because, I mean, that's already happened with the women's division. When Sasha got hurt, snapped their fingers, here comes Bayley, and now she's kind of a floater. So, but
I think personally for 205, it would be weird that they have a developmental for their cruiserweights when they have other shows that they could establish them on, like
main event and
main events and superstars.
No one watches main events and superstars. Let's be honest.
It's true, and
yeah,
it helps that this is a
thing,
network exclusive.
But that's the thing. Like, if this is going to be an exclusive product to show off the cruiserweights, what the main event and superstars aren't doing anything.
That's to showcase the guys on the
them.
roster that they are just keeping around because they can't afford to fire them.
Well, yeah, but then, like, with the cruiserweights, you could use main event to establish them as something, or superstars to start something and to get people back interested in these side, like, shows. Instead of just reinventing one, but the gimmick is that they're all under 205 pounds.
I think the key thing is that they want them to become popular, and more people are willing to see them on the network platform, like with NXT, than they are to see them, on a live local area for NXT, or some providers that have main event, which I don't even know if I do.
A lot of these names are very internationally known, very indie known. It's going to get subscribers.
True.
The Cruiserweight Classic alone nabbed them a bunch of extra subscribers for that. It's going to do the same thing now, adding a show that's going to be on every week.
Yep. So, we'll have to see. November 29th, I believe it said. Yep. November 29th at 10 p.m., which is a little late.
All the kiddies are asleep.
It'll be Corey Graves and Morgan Allo. Great choice. Great choice. I mean, one Raw, one SmackDown.
One Raw, one...
And it's the two people that can really butt heads.
How are they going to make that live if Morrow has to do SmackDown? Is he getting pulled off of SmackDown now?
Oh, we didn't think about
probably.
That.
No, I would say probably because he hasn't been doing that good on SmackDown.
What are you talking about?
I don't like his commentary.
They got David Otunga.
Fuck him!
No, that's what I say. Like,
who? Morrow or Otunga?
Jerry Lawler or they re-add Booker T to SmackDown?
Probably Booker T.
You know,
out of the two,
I'm gonna be very controversial
I would
here.
rather have Booker T than Jerry the King Lawler. I'm sick and tired of the pervertive skit.
Because both those guys are currently just sitting in limbo in the pre-show.
I want Lita on commentary. Give us a great female on commentary.
Renee Young. Give
I
Renee
want
Young
Sunny
commentary.
commentary.
Yeah, she did good with NXT, right? Because she commentated a couple times for NXT. So
yeah.
But anyways, with that, that's a very good point. Whoever said that, that's a very good point because of the Tuesday at November 29th at 10 p.m.
Because it's
weekly
live.
So
which I don't understand that one. That one's the one that really kind of confuses me. Unless they plan on filming it after SmackDown every week.
That could be the thing.
Makes no sense again.
That could be a thing, but that's a problem if you think about it. Because think about it this way: you got Brian Kendrick on Raw on Monday, then you're gonna just drag him out Tuesday again for this thing. So I don't know. Maybe they won't. But
it's a very confusing concept.
We'll just have to see it when it occurs, and it's another thing for WWE that could be a hit or miss.
Live this show really is.
Oh, true. Until then.